record button.
Recording in progress. Okay,
There it is.
wait patiently. Oh, I look like a blue shadow with a black
Am
stripe.
I doing share screen?
Yes. And then I should have a PowerPoint up
This one,
there.
room class 2,
Yes,
room class 1, 2.
run into, yeah, so we're now on to 2. Because I just made one PowerPoint because I was able to dump all the rooms into it and then just go for it. So there we go, runes part 2.
What's wrong with this?
All right, reel it in, everybody. All right. So welcome back, everyone. Once again, I am Birch the tree, here to teach you all about runes in part of a 6-part series hosted by Abilina's Grove, learning everything that there is to know, or at least a part of what there is to know about runes and runes magic. Today's class is Rune Crafting Part 2. Last month, we ended off on the first 12 runes of the Elder Futhark. And now today we're going to be finishing creating our rune sets with the last 12 runes of the Elder Futhark. So we are currently halfway through Hell's 8. Hell's 8 runes symbolize the challenges and assets which surround us in the outer world. We ended on Jera, which is the 12th rune of the Elder Futhark, the rune of the year, that which goes around comes around, the eternal cycle of the seasons. And today we'll be beginning with Aiwas and going through to the end with the rune Othala. So as a reminder of how this works, I'll go through each of our next 12 runes in order. First, I'll read the name of the rune, draw it on the whiteboard. Carl will play the video. Then I'll describe the rune and its attributes. Draw it again. And then you guys can draw your runes. And then once everyone's finished, we move on to the next rune. So with that, let us begin. Next slide.
Advance to part 2.
We need to scroll down. There should be a part 2 as you go through here.
We had a part.
Yeah.
The clipboard. Do we have the clipboard for Panda?
No, for you.
Oh, no. This is good. I like sitting on the floor anyway.
You have your runes?
Yes, then go to the next slide.
They're here.
You're here.
Next slide.
There we are.
Okay, there we go. There's Aiwas. Perfect. Okay.
I'm
It
doing.
must have changed between the time I set it up and the time we
You left
started.
me a big,
Oh, thank you.
it's yours.
Okay, get this. Okay.
Now, do you need a clipboard?
A lot of things, but the clipboard might help now.
Where did the?
Okay, we got it.
You got it? Okay, good. All right, everybody's good?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Aiwas.
I was walking. I thought that feels like a really bad setup to us. Really bad joke. I was.
Aiwas. I think that's a spelling. Aiwas.
Oh, wait, I went to the wrong one.
Oh, it's okay. All right,
There we go.
Aiwas. So Aiwas is the rune of the yew tree. The yew tree is one of the most sacred of all trees in Germanic and Norse mythology. Is possible. I mean, some people say a ash tree, some people say yew tree. I think Yggdrasil could probably be either one if it wanted to. That Yggdrasil, the world tree, is a yew tree.
How do you spell you? I'm sorry.
Y-E-W.
Y-W, thank you.
Do we stop? I thought we were, we didn't do P?
I think you're in a different order.
You're just different, okay,
Yeah,
that's fine, I just.
because the P is Pethro. We did that one. That one's coming up later.
Okay,
I think yours is just in a different order.
okay.
So this
Sorry.
one
Yeah.
is a tree rune?
Yeah, this one is a tree. It's a yew
So I just
tree.
said tree.
It's a yew tree.
What
There's gonna
color-
be a
what
couple of
color?
trees coming up.
I think it's green.
Well, this is a yew tree. There are the different
Yeah,
trees.
this is a yew tree.
And then you say spells different the name. How do you spell the name?
YEW is yew tree, yew. YEW.
Pronunciation, you.
It's pronounced yew, but it's spelled Y. Here, I'll spell it on the board.
Sure. If you say so, Birch, I believe everything you say.
We're gonna have a couple of trees here. I know my trees, okay? I'm Birch.
Yes.
So that's how you spell yew tree.
You, of course.
YEW.
Come
Because
on.
YOU would be too easy.
Did you know that?
EW.
All right. So I was the yew tree. It is a complicated rune. I could probably spend an entire hour just talking about this rune, but I'm going to summarize a few key points here. I was unifies life and death. The yew tree is an evergreen, so it is alive through the winter, like a yew tree, like a Yule tree would be. But it's also poisonous. And because it's a poisonous tree, it has control over the dead. So symbolically, it has control over life. It has control over death. That poison gives it power through magic, the same way as many other poisonous herbs do. If you or someone you know follows more of the left-hand path that works with a lot of poisons, you know how this works. So I'm not going to go into it here. But it allows the practitioner to accept death and thus gain power over it. In the sense that Yggdrasil is a yew tree, it symbolizes Odin dying on Yggdrasil to bring forth the runes from the well of fate. And in a way, it can hold all of the runes on its body. So there's Odin hanging, and then there's the tree, and then there's its roots coming back up again. Ever growing cycle of life and death. And it comes right after Jera, and it is the 13th rune. And we all know, of course, 13 is another very powerful magical number. It's a prime number, which comes right after 12. And 12 can be divided in so many different ways. Unlike 13, which is a prime number, which will only be divided one way by itself and one, it's always been seen kind of ominously throughout the world. It's like something a little bit scary, a little bit ominous about that number, 13. I like it because I was born on the 13th, but that's just me. In rune magic, this rune is used to give you power over the dead. And it's also used a lot for wood crafts like staffs, wands, because they are also dead wood, so they are death, but with that magic and that power, they are given new life. So,
It's good to have this rune in your wand.
it is a good rune to have on your wand. Yeah, if you're looking for a good, you just want a good solid wand rune, this is a good one to pick from. And if you're doing any kind of magic, again, that involves sort of life and death, rebirth type magic, this is another good one. So again, you have the,
You mean like put the symbol on the stuff?
yeah,
Okay, this is-
in the rune song of the Havamal, this is the rune that you put on a dead body to speak with the dead. But I'm not going to go into that today.
Oh, we put it on the runes already?
Yeah, you can go ahead and write it on your runes now. So
Oh,
it's
I
like
don't-
there's a little lip here, and then you go down, then you have another little up.
Like the scar on Harry Potter.
It kind of is like the scar in Harry Potter. I don't know if J.K. Rowling knows a whole lot about runes, but
She probably did.
she
'cause I know-
does know about Iwas, because Iwas does get mentioned in a Harry Potter book.
Not only that, but a lot of the ones because you were mentioning, like a lot of, I realized when you were mentioning about you and I was and all that stuff, it's very synoptic of the characters themselves, if you think about it,
Mhm.
for the ones that had you in their
In
wand
their
making.
wands, yes.
She did a lot of.
And that
research.
is, and that is, again, that's why I'm saying there's a lot to talk about with this rune.
I wasn't gonna say that, but
But no, it
you brought
is,
it up, so.
that lore is, that's where she got it from, is the lore about the yew. And because again, it's death and it's life and it's really complicated. I like it, but it's a very magical room, and it does its I probably did that backwards. Okay, never mind. I meant to spray the thing and then I sprayed the board instead. Oh, well.
This would tell much of the word.
No, it doesn't seem to, because it's soft enough, it just. Okay, now that I got the board nice and dry.
Hey, Mr. Clean.
Yeah, I got a magic eraser, you know. Go pick up my dinner and then I'm like, I should probably grab a magic eraser too.
Yeah, you can go wrong with that.
Can't go wrong with a magic eraser, right? Okay, so next slide. So next up, we have Petro. And this is that P one you were mentioning, Jose.
Oh, okay.
So this is Petro. I like Petro too. So Petro is the rune that governs fate or chance. It's an interesting rune because you'll also sometimes see it translated as pear tree. And you might ask yourself, what the heck does a pear tree have to do with fate or chance? Well, the answer comes from Tacitus' description of those original runes or original wooden pieces that Tacitus describes in Germanicus. He says that they came from the wood of a fruit-bearing tree. And pears are a fruit-growing tree native to northern Germany that he was writing about. So it is very probable that the reason why Petro often is said to refer to the pear tree is because runes would originally have been made off the wood of a pear tree. So in that sense, it encapsulates the very stuff of which runes are made of. You know, so are we talking just about pear wood here? No, not just pear wood. We're talking about the very fabric of fate, the weaving that Frigg makes as she undergirds what is to be the stuff that the Norns weave. We're going to cover that more next month, don't worry. But for now, just remember, when you talk about Petro, you talk about pear tree, you're referring to fate, you're referring to chance, but also the stuff of which chance and fate are made.
Fate, I like that.
Yeah,
Fate, I like that.
exactly, yep. So I like calling Petro, for my own translation, chance a little bit more than fate, because if you look at it, it kind of has a weird looking shape. But has anyone ever played any dice game like Yahtzee where you have to shake the cup and you toss it out? It's the cup tipped on its side, spilling the dice out. So its shape reflects chance, the roll of the dice. You know, when it really boils down to it in our lives, how much of what our lives are made up of that might seem like fate is really just a matter of chance. You know, all those shit happens, you make a decision, you live with it, you go with it, but that brings about another choice, right? Another chance, another roll of the dice, things could go either way. You get the job, you get the date, you get, you know.
Yeah, Doug's it's in D&D, just like, it just.
Yeah, it's all just like a roll of the dice. What's gonna happen to you next?
Yeah.
So I like that translation of Petro best.
Birch,
Mhm.
can I ask, does it matter how you draw it? Because I noticed you draw it one way. I mean, like with a pentacle. It's, you know, you want to draw it a certain way.
The direction?
Oh, I don't really know if it matters. I mean, if it's easier for you to draw it going up, I tend to just draw it like that, but
Yeah, I know what you're saying, that's like,
I don't know if it really matters. At least I've never heard if it matters or not.
that, it, so, yeah.
Because
it's
for me, it would be easier for me to draw the straight line first and then put the curves in.
I mean,
The directional.
if that's easier for you,
That's how I did it.
if that's easier for you, then that's how you should do it. How's that for an answer?
Yeah,
That sounds right.
like, I know, I get what you're saying, yeah, that's, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easier, just draw the line and put the little zigs on, that's cool, that's cool.
So it doesn't matter the way you draw 'em or how,
It,
where you
it,
start.
it's the end shape that you're going for.
It's at the end, yeah, you're not.
It's the end shape that you're going for here. I think with the pentacle, the pentagram, you'll cover more next week, but I think it's
Yeah.
because there's
Yeah,
a
Yeah,
meaning to the
yeah, there's-
direction.
that's, the way,
Yeah.
yeah.
With a lot of the runes, they're meant to be carved. So it's probably just a matter of what would be easiest for carving. We're using markers, which are a little more forgiving. One last note about Pethro. So you'll find some modern rune sets, like if you buy them in a store, they'll include a blank rune because they want to have the rune for fate or chance. What about Pethro here? That's why it always really annoys me when people do that, is talk about the blank room, because you have to incorporate fate. Oh no, you've got Pethro right here. We're not talking about pear trees. We pull up Pethro. It might say pear tree in some translations. They're not talking about a literal, yes, you are going to encounter a pear tree. It's talking about, you are going to encounter, there's something coming up in your future that is going to, be part of the weaving of your life. Pay attention. That's what Pethro is telling you. You don't need, if the Norns want to speak of fate or blind chance in a reading, they will send Pethro. Wrote that down to make sure I remember it. No, we do not need a blank room.
Thought it was in case we lost one.
Yeah.
Like a button on a coat.
Well, that would be acceptable. If you lose a rune and you need to make another one, cool. You can have a replacement rune, but don't.
I mean, then you would leave it up to chance.
Yeah, right. Well, that's just a matter of, that rune really wanted to leave you. I don't know. It wanted a better. It wasn't, it represents something that really needs to get the heck out of your life and decides to take matters into its own hand and walks away.
A lesson in that.
Right? There's probably something to remember from that one. All right.
I think it might be better if you just use the spray and the paper towels.
I think so. I was experimenting, trying to see the best way to make this thing work. I can't believe you mentioned the whiteboard, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, we do have that whiteboard sitting there.
On your face.
I was like, what?
Oh, well.
Basically out of sight, out of mind.
Well, it's tucked away. It's not being used. Okay. Oh,
Until
yes.
you don't need it.
And then suddenly you're like, oh, wait, I could do something sometime. All right. Next one is next room. Go. Algaes.
Ah, okay.
Oh.
One of the runes that I have on my staff.
Chicken foot.
Mhm.
Yep. Algaes.
So I'm guessing Pedro is a 14th rune, right?
Yeah, that would be number 14. And this will be number 15.
Yeah, okay.
Algaes, sometimes I've also seen it written down as alhaz. Not quite sure what the difference is between the two. I tend to refer to it as algaes, but you'll also hear alhaz. Both of them are correct.
Algaes.
Algaes, yes.
Geese.
Yeah, the geese.
So I have a question. So because the Norse and the Germanic differences are similar but different in many cases, would there be a different pronunciation or writing from different areas where the rune is being used, for
Yes.
example?
Yes.
I don't like that.
There are differences in pronunciation. There's also differences in name as you go from elder to younger or from elder to Anglo-Saxon. Good question.
Yes.
Algaes, I think, is the more Germanic thing because when Tacitus was writing about the Germans, he used alces to talk about an elk. So I think that's more German one. That's probably why I feel more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me, but okay. So this one can mean the elk, the sedge, or the Valkyries, depending on what you're working on. Its shape, if you're looking at it as the elk, here's the elk and those are its antlers. The two parts pointing out to the sides are its antlers. It's a defensive rune. But unlike Thurisaz, which will stand there like, "Roar, nobody's messed with my house here," Algies is gonna be like, "There's a threat over there. I'm gonna kill it."
So it's more like for a weapon.
It's a good weapon. I have it on my staff.
So
Okay.
for this one, the word would be weapon
Yeah,
Defensive.
it's a defensive weaponry. You're talking about elk, so imagine like a deer trying to fight, fighting its guy's antlers, it's going like
or? I just
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
like that.
Farmer with a pitchfork.
Yeah.
Yeah, person with a pitchfork,
Is it more offensive?
it's a little bit more it's more offensive.
Yeah.
It's,
Thurisaz is
the best
defensive.
defense is a good offense.
You're gonna offense, you're not gonna def.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is the one that's gonna come running at you, screaming a challenge, wielding a stick.
Yeah.
Yes.
There to help you defense, offense kind of
And you
thing.
can see why I prefer this one, because my preferred fighting style is run at you screaming with a stick. Um. But it's not just used to channel energy and move it purely for protection, though that is its most common form. It really can channel any sort of energy and have it moving and flowing along along a given direction as it needs to.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking to myself, that it can be used in
Yeah,
that sense as a weapon, but it's more than that. It could be used like, if that's what you want to use it for.
yeah, you can use it for other things as well. You can also see it like, imagine a person standing with their arms raised, channeling the sacred energy, like as above, so below. It also can do the same thing, like, you're calling down like the moon, or you're doing some kind of summoning work. Same posture. In that case, it works very well with Ansus, because Ansus is that divine breath, that divine movement. You're channeling and you're bringing in that divine wind. It works very well in that context too. And then I also mentioned, of course, it's called the sedge. Well, we have one very famous sedge here in Florida that is extremely close to us. Anyone know what it's called? The sawgrass.
Yeah.
The sawgrass is one of Lady Florida's sacred plants. It is the protector of the Everglades, magically speaking. It's also a sanctuary for countless marine and other animals in the Everglades who call that river their home, including, of course, gator.
Okay.
Aw,
I thought it was a
gator.
mall.
So when you're working with Lady Florida and you're working with Everglades magic, you can also use algaes to call up that energy of the sawgrass, the protective edge that guards the glades, which I think is really cool. The third association with this rune is with the Valkyries. The Valkyries are covered in swan feathers. So sometimes this gets referred to with references to swans. Swans are pretty, lovely, graceful birds, aren't they?
They'll kill you.
They'll also mess you up.
Yeah, that's, yeah, I'm glad you did that distinction, because they're warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they're like a goose. You want to cuddle them, but they do not want to cuddle you. So the Valkyries are the choosers of the slain. They have the power to save the warriors, but they do not use it because those warriors are needed at Ragnarok.
Go to such and such, yeah.
Yeah, so, and again, that's kind of, the sense of, okay, it's protected, but there's also movement, there's channeling, you're going from, you're flying off on the winged steed with the Valkyries to go feast at Odin's Hall tonight.
So if you were reading the runes for someone and this one came out, what would be the message to them?
Well, that's one reason why I like to have more than one rune pulled at a time.
Okay.
Because a lot of these runes, they can go in different directions. And so a lot of times it's going to depend on what else is pulled with it to
Okay.
kind of get a sense of where it's going. If it's on its own, I would kind of have to talk with the person a little bit and kind of see like where their mind is going. Are
Presence.
they, you
Okay.
know,
Their own presence.
does it seem like they need protection? Does it seem like they're having trouble channeling? You know, because it probably means something like that, but it's hard on its own to necessarily know, like,
Okay.
this is what you're talking about. There's some runes that are, and there's some runes like this that
But it's, okay, I wrote down defensive twice, but it's an offensive.
it's an offensive kind of
So-
defense.
So it may be something they need to.
Yeah, like
they
they're
need
like maybe they're
to
standing
correct
still.
Before something goes poorly.
Yeah, or maybe like they're trying to like stand still and they're trying to defend themselves, and maybe they need to take the offense.
Okay.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
You need to attack.
Yeah, they
Finish them.
need to, you know, stop standing still, grab
Or
their
stop
stick,
them.
More
and
of a
run
hard
and
time.
screaming.
Or you can even hold your ground if you like an elk,
Mhm.
like if you need, as a lady, you need to hold your ground. Someone's pushing you around, you don't like to be pushed around, enough is enough. And you say that enough is enough means enough is enough.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
mean, there's, the way you do it, I think is like a good thing, because sometimes, and I mean, notice this a couple times, that people not necessarily don't do their homework right, but they will use, for example, they're good with tarot, but then all of a sudden they get to runes, and the thought is, well, I can do the same thing and correlate. Like, no, you have to know the rune said how you do it. It's not tarot, and you can't be trying to mix night and day like that. So it's
Yeah, and we'll cover that all in the divination class that's
Okay.
coming up. You know, but that's one of the things that I will be explaining in that class is you can do a single rune pull. It's
Mhm.
but I prefer to do a minimum of 3. There's been readings where I've gone up to 9 because it was just not coming clear.
Okay.
And then I just was like, all right, toss some more out and we're gonna go with this because,
Mhm.
you know,
Okay,
there's enough complexity in the runes that sometimes you would misunderstand something standing in isolation.
okay, thank
You
you.
know, they're. Okay, so yeah, so for this, you can get like that single line, and with this, you like that single line.
like that.
And then you put like a little, you know, V shape on top. So you got, you know, the little antlers or the person, you know, channeling. Sometimes I've also seen it's referred to as the bow. I mean, to me, it looks like more like a bow you're pointing at the ground, but like if that's the arrow, it would be pointing at the ground, but.
Mm.
I like your the antler. I mean, like the
Yeah, but
like
for
that.
me, the antler
see that.
imagery works well,
Mhm.
you know, and again, it gives you kind of the right idea, like, you know. I'm from Minnesota. The most dangerous animal in Minnesota is the moose.
yeah, that's.
So for me, like the idea of an antlered creature that is really dangerous makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Well, you don't you know you don't have to get hurt if you don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, I mean, some moose will just decide, I don't
Yeah.
like you over there, I'm gonna go gallop and kill you now, but.
I don't know their behavior. That's what they
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
but other deer, yeah, they're just like.
Remember that? They'll
browsing
attack you on
away.
the blue.
That I don't know. All I know is that when I saw an actual like image of an actual moose somewhere, like authentically, yeah, that thing was like a walking truck. I'm like, okay, I'm not messing with that thing.
No,
Yeah,
and
they're
they will,
huge.
and they will
They're
just
big.
out of the blue.
They are big, dude.
They will-
Bigger
they
than
will
I
just
thought.
charge.
Yeah.
Yeah, look.
They just, if they're in a bad mood, get just
Yeah,
go in
it's-
front.
Oh, yeah.
Because they
Medium
will.
sized elephant, they will charge you.
What's going on over there?
I don't know, it's falling.
Yes.
Technical
see?
difficulties.
Kind of similar to.
I think I'll get cracking up.
It's so cute.
We had a little bit too much
I'm
algae
watching
energy
TV.
up there. It was trying to move and like go up your face.
Yeah.
But it's okay, it survived. We are here to help it.
Technical. di-
But I've seen that a
Get
lot
it
of times
through
on the
its day.
funny videos, sort of like some videos, say, look at when I pet it or something, they get so close and then they,
Yeah.
and then they blame the animals and the animals get hurt after because
Jump
too
in
very
their-
human.
Yeah.
Jump in their den and start
All right,
attacking their
let's bring it back around here. All right, so next rune. So we know.
What? So we love.
My
Spanish.
favorite, like my favorite rune.
You
Suido.
like this one, huh?
Yes, I do.
That's the lightning bolt.
Suido.
Yes,
Suido.
lightning bolt.
Yes, I do.
Say it again.
Suilo.
Suilo.
It does sound kind of Spanish.
Suilo.
Yeah, this is the
One
rune
year,
of the
my ne-
sun.
My next cat is an
You see the little S in the lightning bolt, like it's the sun. All right. So remember when we were talking about Isa and I was like, well, if anything, in Florida, our ISO is a Sowilo because that's the weather we fear the most. It's the heat, it's the brightness, it's the intensity of the sun. It's that burning, uncontrollable, unquenchable fire that comes from the sky, comes searing down onto you. For some of us in Florida, we like the sun, we like the heat. The sun is massive, incandescent gas, and so on and so forth. But other people think that all this heat and humidity is something we So Wilo symbolizes, in turn, that intense strength of the human will, your own willpower, your own mind. You bring that fire of your passion, your commitment, your intensity, you bring it to whatever you want. It is not what Hitler's SS wanted. It is not their symbol of hate, violence, and death. They tried. And unfortunately, the active form of Sowilo, the swastika, is now pretty much, in my book, unusable for German pagans. I will not touch it. As far as I'm concerned, the energy of the swastika has been cursed.
Yeah.
It's indeed.
I sincerely hope that if it's used in the Eastern tradition successfully for 1,000 years, maybe my descendants of 1,000 years from now in the year 3000 will be able to use it again. But for my part, too close to the source, I will not touch it.
Absolutely.
If I need to do anything that involves energy, I'll just work with Sowilo on its own. If I have to, I will draw 4 Sowilos before I would draw 1 swastika. But as I've read in a few of my rune books, this point I think is a good point to make. What that shows, horrible as it is an example of how any power can be misused. Willpower, the strength of our convictions, is a morally neutral force. It's what we choose to put our will towards that matters. You could put all your heart and your soul into doing evil, and you will do evil. But if you put your heart and your soul into doing good, into making the world a better place, into helping people, into making a positive difference, this same power that could make evil will make that same amount of good. And I think that's really something that we need to remember. And the more we can infuse this sort of rune with good, positive, powerful, friendly vibes, the sooner that stench that was put onto it can be burned away and never brought back, ever. That's my first Nazi soapbox of the day. If you cannot tell, I have the utmost contempt for people who would abuse my faith. Okay, so Sowilo, you have basically a little lightning bolt, a very pointy S. And you guys can draw that on your runes.
I'm missing that one. Look like Suilo.
Sowilo.
Suilo.
So WILO, right?
Sowilo. Sowilo. The pointy S.
Inner fire, yeah.
Yep, it's that fire, it's that commitment, it's that burning sun. It is what we feel every time we step outside our doors in July on a bright sunny day when it's 100 degrees outside and you just feel that sun roasting into your skin.
Just in August.
And you get a sunburn.
And amethyst turns into a happy lizard.
Oh, yes, I do. I climb up on the rocks.
You climb on the rocks like a sunning alligator and you just go, oh, this is the life.
Much
I
like, when
agree.
That takes sunbathing to a whole new level.
much like how I'm gonna feel very soon when mild cold weather comes in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm also a fan of the heat. However, the heat in July and August is a bit much for me to go for a walk or a bike ride, which I find less than desirable, but I still like the heat. I have spent enough years under the power of Isa and ice and snow that I am good for a while. Okay. So next slide.
That's the end of house.
Okay, so now we're coming to our last 8.
Okay.
So these are,
So this one had a name, this 4.
well, they were in the middle of Hell's 8,
Okay.
and now we're into Tears 8. So the runes again are divided into 3 groups of 8, called the Eights, very creatively. It's spelled A-E-T-T, but it's pronounced 8, because it's the word 8. So it starts with Freyr's 8, and then Hell's 8, and now Tears 8. And Tears 8 is where we get some of our most abstract forces. The unseen forces and elemental strengths and gods of the universe who shape us into who we are, how we're going to be, and, govern, who we're going to become in the end.
So this is Tears 8.
Tears 8, yep. And that's a picture of Tyr. Tyr is, of course, Tyr is a very interesting god. I'm just going to detour for a moment to talk about him for a second because it's really fascinating to me. Tyr has the same root, the same name as Jupiter and Zeus, which means inevitably at some point in the lost history of the Germanic paganism, he was the leader of the gods. But by the time anything got recorded, Odin had taken his place as the head of the gods. So something happened, because there is no correspondent to Odin in any of the Mediterranean religions, which split from the same ancestor about 6,000 years ago. But there is an Odin. There are Vanir who do not exist in that. There's no Vanir-Aesir divide in those southern religions. There's no Odin. And Tyr is not the leader. He's not the sky father of all the gods. The most famous and one of really the very few surviving stories about Tyr tells the story of how he lost his hand. When the gods were trying to bind Fenrir to prevent him from consuming the sun at Ragnarok, they promised that if he could not unbind the final chain, which was really just like a long silken string, it was like Fenrir suspected a trick because they've been chaining with all these huge, heavy chains and manacles and bolts, and then they show up with this little string, and he suspected a trap. So he said, "Look, I will let you put it on me, but if I cannot escape, you must take it off." And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, sure, we'll take it off." And he was like, "Really? Then one of you put your hand in my mouth, and if you do not take it off, I will bite off that person's hand." And none of the gods wanted to put their hand into his mouth because they knew that they were lying. And Tyr was the only one brave enough to stick his hand in the wolf's mouth. And when Fenrir could not escape and the gods would not let him loose, he bit off Tyr's hand. And thus Tyr saved the gods from turning their back on their oaths. And he paid the price with his hand. So,
Good guy.
like Tyr, these 8 runes call upon us to be our highest and our best selves, to have that sort of bravery and courage as we go through our lives. The very first rune, so next slide, is Tiwas, which is Tyr's rune. And you remember how I mentioned that at some point?
Yeah, we
Tyr
have
must-
another one. It's was the other way or something.
Yeah, Tiwas. How I said Tyr must have been a sky god
Oh no.
at some point in the past that was never recorded and never mentioned. Well, look which way Tiwaz is pointing.
Mhm.
Tiwaz points to the sky. And it's Tyr's rune. So there's definitely something in this rune that speaks to the oldest of Tyr's roles and the oldest of Tyr's powers. It's a spear shape, roughly. So you can kind of see that imagery of, again, sort of a war leader, a leader among the gods, the spear pointing skyward. Most of the time in Norse and German tradition, Odin is the one always associated with the spear. But here, the spear is associated with Tyr, which is another interesting sign of how maybe Odin began to take on some of Tyr's aspects when he took over as the leader of the Aesir gods. It can also be imagined as the scales of justice held at a point of perfect balance. Like if those were the scales and that's the lever, they're pointed, they're even. Because while Odin is a god very much of wild magic, twistiness, craftiness, he will find a way to get what he wants, even if it's not exactly the right way to do things. Tyr is always upright and honorable, and he respects that and demands it of whoever calls upon him.
So
He- Go ahead.
I was saying, so this will represent honor.
Honor, justice, doing what is right, no matter the cost. Because remember, Tyr was willing to have his own hand bitten off rather than do the wrong thing. And he is closely associated with war and battle, but it has to be fought for an honorable cause. Because if you call upon Tyr with this rune before a fight, and your cause is not just, he is going to turn the tables on you, and you are going to lose.
It's good
So
to
you
know.
better be.
Yeah, right.
You better be absolutely certain that what you're calling upon with this rune is the right thing to do, because otherwise he's going to reverse it on you, and you are going to be in trouble. It's a rune of death and of communing with the dead. Because anytime you fight, you might not walk away from that fight. I think actually, and last year, I did that bloat for water justice, where we used this rune to call upon Tyr to help us in the legal fight to protect Florida's water sources. I was pretty damn sure that Tyr would approve and that we had right on our side, which is why I called upon it. But and it's also a good rune if you are dedicating to or following the path of the spiritual warrior. Because as a spiritual warrior, you are very often called upon to do the right thing, even when it's difficult, even when it's something going against the grain. But again, you better be serious. Because everything I've ever read and studied about this rune is Tyr takes these oaths very literally. And he does not want you to call upon him if you are not on the side of, side of justice.
All right.
But I mean, the good thing is that if you are, he will throw all his weight behind you and make sure you succeed. So there's that.
All right.
So. Before you go to battle, make sure your cause is just, and then take this rune and call upon it. So again, you have the straight line, and you have the spear point up top. Okay. Everyone got their tiwas? I should wonder. We're much more organized at this part of it this week. Okay.
Next class is divination.
It's either divination or it's patterns of rune magic.
Is that March 18th? March 8th, I'm sorry.
March 8th.
March
March
8th.
Which one? Well, I guess I could do either one.
I have all the blurbs.
I
but
have all the
couldn't tell.
blurbs. I keep think, we can
That's
just
here.
let's just do divination.
Yeah, here.
No matter what, let's just do divination next month. I'm feeling divination for next month. No matter what I planned originally, I'm just feeling that next month is divination month for whatever reason. So it's gonna be,
Alright, over here.
so we'll have divination, and plus that the book about the fates came to me at the raffle, so I think that's a sign.
Mhm.
I won that book.
I hold the lucky tickets.
You did, I was like, I told the face, I'm like, I need this book for my class, so make sure I get it, okay?
So you got it.
And then lo and behold, there, along with all 6 deer,
Just ask and you shall receive.
right?
Yeah.
I also won all 6 deer hangers, like little wall hangers. They're shaped like deer. I won all 6. I only put in for 3.
Dear me.
Right? Oh, dearie me. Ah, yes. And now we come to my very favorite rune. Next, yeah, there we go.
The bear?
Berkana. Berkana bear.
Berkana.
Berkana. Yes. Birch. The Berkana.
B for bear.
B for bear. B for Berkana. B for birch. Berkana means birch, which is again why I'm so extremely partial to this rune. So much so that some years ago when Fiber Magic here, Fiber Magician Opaluna herself, was making some rune bears. She did what, like a Jera and a Dagas. And I said, well, you know, when you pull birch, I'm gonna be buying that bear, just so you know. I'm staking my claim on it right now. And then somehow, just so happened that the next rune that got pulled was Berkana. I suspect there might have been some kind of Norn conspiracy involved.
It was standing right there, totally natural.
Totally natural. All right, Carl, I'll believe you, but I still think there's some divine magic at work here. So there was a Berkana bear.
I
And
like
now
that.
we have a Berkana bear.
I like the bear has a helmet.
Well, of
Yeah.
course,
Of course.
The Viking helmet.
North.
it's me in bear form. Would I not be wearing a helmet in bear
This is
form?
true.
I mean,
And it has strength. No,
Yes,
it's
little brain.
Now he just needs a berry axe.
That's true. I could probably commission an axe. I don't know.
Commission.
bear.
He needs
Well, I
something.
mean, it doesn't need an axe because she could just use my
Who says girls can't
my
have
stick
axes?
here, and you know.
Who says girls can't throw an axe?
Oh, I throw axes.
I throw access.
Exactly.
I-
That's what I'm saying. Because you're like, well, it's
So
like
what?
It's a lot of fun.
Who wants to see?
Okay. Enough about the axes. More about Berkana.
My
All right.
Berkana.
So the shape of Berkana is easy because it looks like a really pointy B.
Yeah.
When you see me signing my name and you see me just putting the really pointy B, that's because I'm writing this rune because that's my entire name in one letter. Okay. The birch tree.
That's a birch tree. Okay.
Yes, it's the rune of the birch tree. Hi.
it's me.
But the actual tree now, not just me, but the actual tree,
Mhm.
like this, the tree, is sacred to the mother goddess. She has many names, throughout,
To see
you
a
know.
bigger thing, no, birch, that's the birch tree.
Yeah, this is a birch stick.
Didn't know.
This is a birch stick that came down in a hailstorm. So it's sacred to both, Berkta and to hell,
Is that the,
and to,
is that,
And
is it
Scotty.
like very soft?
it's a softwood, yes.
Very soft.
Yeah,
I see them a lot
Is-
where I
There's
walk.
sugar that doesn't
I
want.
think
is
so.
shine on there?
They're up north. It's a
Yeah.
northern tree.
It's a-
Shine.
oh, northern, okay.
This birch stick is also very sacred to Scotty because it came down in an ice storm. And then it was delivered to me. So it is sacred in like 3 directions, to hell.
So that's not in Florida.
No, this was
No.
from Minnesota. They do not grow in Florida.
Oh, okay.
I'm the only birch tree you're likely to encounter down here. But where I'm from, up in northern Minnesota, they're everywhere. It's a very common tree up there, and it's also very common in Germany. So it's sacred to the mother goddess. And it's often called, one of her names is Perkta or Berkta, which comes from the name for the birch tree. Berkta. It's a rune of the sacred feminine energy of life, death, and rebirth, which is why in the spring, there are so many traditions which revolve around birch trees. For example, the maypole, which the Saxons took with them to England, where it became part of Beltane, was always a birch tree. We used a birch log ourselves one year, very memorably. Another thing was young women, sort of like the Lupercalia we're talking about, but instead of whips, it'd be birch twigs. Men would chase young women around with birch twigs, and it's a fertility symbol. And so all of these traditions go back because Berkana, the birch rune, is a rune of fertility, of birth, of, fruitfulness. Berkana is also a rune of secrets. It can be used for camouflaging one's wards. So if you want your ward to blend in with the natural energies, you don't even know it's there, put a Berkana on it, and it will just disappear magically into the ambient energies of the earth, because again, it is a rune that is sacred to the Earth Mother. So by calling upon her energies when working with this rune, you can blend your magic directly into the magic of the earth herself. It's used for nurturing the young. Oftentimes, if you have babies or small children and you want to do protective spells, or you want to have spells for fertility and giving birth, you can use Berkana to encourage fruitfulness in your own body, so to speak. And when combined with Jera, which is the rune of the harvest, it can be used to shelter future plans until the time comes for them to sprout into being. So say you have something that you want to work on, but you're not quite ready to start it yet. You want it to still kind of build in kind of the fermenting stage for a while.
Would it be something to use, let's say, if you were still in the broom closet kind of situation and you're hanging around, like you want to hide in plain sight, as they say?
I think it would be extremely effective. I've often gone to places where I cannot be openly Norse pagan with my lovely hammer, and I've just had my little Berkana, and people get confused because they don't know that, my name is Birch. They think I have my other name, and they are wondering why there's a B around my neck when it should be an S. But it's because, I'm hiding in plain sight.
Listen, you can just be like, you're really, really fascinated with wildlife.
Exactly.
Can you
fingers.
use it to make things sort of like blend out? Instead of you blending in, other things just
Yes.
disappear, make it
Yes.
disappear in.
Yes.
Maybe
It can
like
be used
easier
to
for you to-
conceal, it can be used to camouflage, because it makes whatever you're hiding blend in with the earth around it. So you can camouflage, you can hide it,
If I don't like something per se, but I have no way to deal with it, maybe if I threw the bead at it
Yes,
and I won't feel it.
that could work. That could definitely work.
I
No,
let
you
you all
And
know.
it also
No, you cannot get rid of your children.
No, trust me, they'll be in this side.
It's a rune of covering.
it covers, it conceals. It also can call into
Elsa
being
mama skirts.
some of the
I was
darker
gonna say it's the
aspects.
Elsa rune.
Guys,
I'll bet.
shh, I'm gonna tell you something secret here. It can call into
Alexa.
being the darker aspects of the mother goddess's nature. It can call upon the shrouded crone who takes us back into the womb at the time of death.
I like this.
So if you are working with anything that has to do with go back to the earth from whence you came, or if you're working with crone magic, crone hurricanes, perhaps, in addition to Hagaloth, maybe you can also have Berkana in that aspect. The aspect of the shrouded crone who brings you back to the earth at the end. So put one of these on my gravestone, I'll be happy. All right, so again, to draw Berkana, you just make a really pointy B.
I did it already.
There you go.
Pretty.
All right. There, Berkanas. Okay. Yeah, you can tell how much I love that reading. We're almost there, guys. We're moving through the last 8.
Another one of my favorites.
Oh, amethyst. We're now coming up to the one you called horsey. A-wise.
He was.
Just want a clarification, I suppose, Mrs. Amethyst.
Well, I think calling it horsey is actually really funny. Because this is the horse room. It's horsey.
At least it would look like a mountain.
In modern times, it would really represent your car. So anytime you're dealing with magic that surrounds your car, you can use AWAS as the substitute for car. You know, the way that you want to do with your horse. Now you use your.
Your car has horsepower, I guess.
It does have horsepower, exactly. This rune calls up not just the horse magic, but the partnership that arises between a horse and a rider. Yes. So.
Sorry, we're not playing 52 room pickup.
Apparently,
To transportation.
Yes, transportation, partnership, horses and cars.
Well, God.
Because when you're riding a horse, it's not just you, it's not just the horse. You both have to cooperate and work together to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Same thing applies to mules, as I've learned. If the mule decides to go one way,
Go with it.
you're just gonna go with the mule because the mule speaks Spanish and you don't know how to command the mule in Spanish. And your host family left that part out of the instructions. So the mule's just gonna keep walking on home. Well, you go. That may or may not have happened to someone I know.
yeah.
This rune is also closely tied to Sleipnir, Loki's son, who is the 8-legged horse who carries Odin and others throughout the 9 worlds. Sleipnir is one of the few creatures who can go about Yggdrasil on his own power without any help from any outside forces, because Sleipnir is just that awesome. During the first class, when we discussed Hagalaz, I was saying how the road takes 9 days to travel. It takes 9 days for Sleipnir to travel there too. And this rune is closely related to Rydho, the rune of the road and the wagon. But it's a little bit more of like, this is the vehicle that is carrying you versus this is the road that you are traveling, or the wagon that you are traveling in. It's a little bit more like, okay, this is you and this is what's getting you there. It's subtle, but it's there. Because you can use this rune, just like you would use Rydho, to take yourself places astrally. In my experience, using this one tends to more call up like a metaphysical horse or animal to bear you places, where Rydho tends to just open up the road to show you where to go. This one will give you a astral partner or guide to help you get there. And in my experience, that's the main difference between the two when you're using it for that purpose of astral traveling. It again, like I said, it's an excellent rune for anything involving your car. So for example, I was telling you earlier how before I go to Miami, I will draw runes on my steering wheel or on my dashboard to keep me safe because I do not trust Miami. roads in the least. I understand.
Or their drivers.
Or their drivers or anything else. This is one of the runes that I use to represent the car and me inside the car. So the partnership of me and my car to keep us safe during a heavy rainstorm. I will usually combine algaes. Again, you have that sort of offensive protection, keep the danger away from me, with an IWAS and a radome. So that way, like, okay, me and my car safe on the road. And so if you look at its shape, it looks just like what we would call an M, but it doesn't have the sound of M, it has the sound of eh. But the first half and the second half of the rune, so if you kind of break it in half, you see how you have two sort of faces coming together in the middle, so they're like, you know, coming together like this. Okay.
It's like a mountain. It's like a mountain which would indicate travel as well. So it's
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of got that, or like two horses' heads, like, you know, butting together.
A partnership.
Exactly. It, in that form, it can be used to symbolize the unity of two becoming one. It has often been used for marriages and hand fastings because you again have that sense of a partnership, two individual unique beings who are nevertheless drawn together for a common purpose and are now going to be in a single entity moving forward. And for that to have the harmonious, you know, coming together. And then I always find this interesting just because I love the whole King Arthur mythos. Sacred twins, especially sacred twins associated with horses, have a long history of being associated with this rune too. The two Saxon kings, Hengist and Horsa, whose names both mean horse, basically, were the two Saxon kings who fought to conquer and set up the Saxon rule in post-Roman Britain. And were probably, if they did exist and if King Arthur existed, they were the kings that he probably would have fought. So a little bit of historical trivia there with AWAS. So again, you have to draw it, you just make a really pointy capital M. But no, you're not going to McDonald's. But else you remember, this is a rune that you use when you're driving your car to McDonald's.
I'm loving it.
And that's, it works. All right. So everyone go ahead and draw your horsies.
That looks like a fish, I put a duck in there.
Getting there, everybody, we're getting there. Okay. So. Next up. We have a very similar looking rune. That for me is honestly one of the hardest to draw, so just bear with me.
Manas?
Mana, yeah,
Just draw a couple of axes and connect them in the middle.
yeah, pretty much.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Yeah, I think that's what I ended up doing
Legs.
when I was making the thing, yeah.
Make an X and then put the long legs on.
Yeah, kind of like there's an X with legs. Yeah,
An extra legs.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. There we go, X with legs. Yeah. I think that I gave up when I was doing it on the computer. I think I did something like that.
Yes.
Because I was like trying to draw it with my mouse on the computer. I took like almost many times as here to actually come up with something that looked like a manas. So manas refers to humankind. You'll often see it translated as mankind, but really that's not the original meaning of man in manas. It meant more like people, humans. So humankind. You can say mankind if you like, but it's really more like humankind, all people.
You spell it?
Yep. Mananaz. Yeah, manas. This is Heimdall's rune. Heimdall, who is the god, the guardian of the Bifrost, who watches everything. It is Heimdall's rune because in one story about where people came from, he fathered all three types or classes of humanity: kings, freemen, and thralls. And there's a whole story about that, which I won't go into right now. But like Ansu's, this is a rune of the mind. It's a rune of the intellect, of thought. And it works very well with Ansu's when you are working on anything that involves an intellectual type problem. And it also, like I said, looks a lot like a more complicated AWAS, because now instead of just the pointy M, you got the little X going on in the middle. And why might it look so much like the horse rune when it's the people rune? Well, at the end of the day, people are just really complicated animals with a whole bunch of extra thoughts that we don't need. So in that way, when you switch from AWAS, which is the simple M, to humanity, which is the complicated M, you're really just making the fact that humans are really complicated animals who do more than just sleep and eat and play. I wish we weren't, but we are. And I love Terry Pratchett very much, and one of my favorite Terry Pratchett quotes is, "Humanity is where the rising angel meets the fallen ape." That sense, as only Pratchett
That's deep
put it,
right there. I like that.
that humans are like, we're also like, woo, you know, we're at that meeting place of the two. It also, it has so many interesting symbolisms if you dig into its shape and how it looks. It's also a double Wunjo. Remember, Wunjo is the little happy little flag of joy. It's got like two little flags facing each other. And that's because, of course, you know, where you have like one community, one group of people who make you happy, and then there's another group of people over there who also make you happy, and you all come together, and now you're an even bigger community.
So on that note,
Mhm.
that makes a ton of sense. I can make sense of things. It's yourself and culture.
Mhm.
It's all about you. You look at yourself and you look at your culture, your inner and the outer,
Yes.
something like that. And I can,
Yep.
I can take up the time.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it too. It's you, it's your intellect, it's your mind, but it's also everyone around you. You know, it's your wider cultural and social sphere, you know. It's
Big ruin. I can see.
Yeah, it's
huge.
It's a complicated room, but you know, it's kind of like what was happening at Tides last weekend with the Grove. There was us Grove people, and then there were the EMLC people and all their groups, and we're all like making one big happy jumble of pagans, learning about all kinds of things and doing ritual together. You know, it's not just your little inner group of people, it's, you know, your broader, wider community
It's
of
your
people.
inner, outer,
Yeah, exactly. It's your
like a belly
your
button.
outer.
It's like a
you have
belly
your
button.
yourself, you have your
outer.
inner, then you have your extra.
Yeah, it's a good room for festivals.
Exactly.
It could be all about stuff.
Mhm. And like you were saying,
Like a little belly button.
when you get this rune, like you're doing a reading and you get this rune, it oftentimes does apply to like, how do you relate with the people around you? You know, your wider community. So when you're doing a multiple reading, you could get a manas in there and then the other runes, and the manas would say, okay, you got to look here. How are you relating with the people around you? You know, where, and then the other runes would kind of tell you, okay, this is sort of what's going on with the people around you. Kind of thing. You know, and again, it very much governs, you know, your mind, intellect, your thoughts, you know. how you think about and how you perceive yourself within that wider community and how that wider community perceives you. It's that, you know, looking at the glass both ways, which is
That's
why,
another, looking at glass.
Mhm.
Glass mirror.
Yeah, glass mirror kind of, you know. There's you and then there's a reflection.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's a lot to break down with its shape, which is why it's so complicated and hard to draw, at least for me. All right,
Didn't draw it yet.
go ahead and take a moment to, yeah, I think the X with the 2 lines is probably the easiest way to do it. Yeah, just box in your X's. Trying to remember. I don't draw this one very often, I guess.
You don't. It's okay, we're good.
Yep, and if anyone does mess up on a picture at any point, you can just, we do have extras, so I can always cannibalize an extra if I have to.
Can I get an extra?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, if there's anything in there that's blank, no one's
Yeah.
claimed the bag. Okay, yeah, if no one's claimed the
Nope.
bag, go ahead and just scavenge one out of there, because
Thank
no one's claimed it yet.
And I'll leave it outside, so.
Yeah, and then I'll know that.
You need one? Yes, please.
Yeah,
See, I just draw 800 of them before I did.
oh, there you go, that works.
See, unfortunately, I'm drawing for me and Leo, so
Yep.
I'm drawing for me and Leo, so when I mess up on his, I just do it on mine.
Well,
He won't know any better. He
Poor
won't
guy.
read it.
We're men, we don't know anything.
And make sure you put it in there.
That's, we're men, we don't know anything, trust me.
I'm putting my energy, which may not be the worst thing in the world.
Well, if Jonathan, if you're listening to this and she does need anything to be replaced, she can get one replaced for you. Don't worry, you just come see me. All right. So everyone ready for the next rune? Okay. All right, put it here. Very smart of me. Okay, so next rune. Watching a mirror.
I'm gonna go again.
I'm trying not to, but easy to do. Right. Yeah. Algae's like arms, I
That
guess.
thing needs tightening.
This round thing,
Yeah.
all right, I'll hold this, you
It
touch
does loose.
Okay.
No, there's
No,
on the back leg.
that thing.
Your back leg is slipping.
Where's the round thing?
This.
Oh, just kind of.
The other way.
Oh, I got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just do what you just did in reverse.
yeah.
Okay. All right, I was there, it would have fallen on me, it would have been okay. I might not have been okay,
It's
but
not heavy.
the floor would be okay. Okay, all right, next up, Lagoos.
Lagoose.
Lagoos.
That's it?
And then it's got the
Looks
little,
so lonely.
the little pointy on the, right, I mean, after Manaz, it's like absolutely simple, but deceptively simple and so pretty. It's a very pretty rune, I like it. Its own way, it's like a little,
Hook, yeah.
yeah, like a little hook. So Lagos,
Site.
Lagos symbolizes the water or the lake. Like Berkana,
Makes sense.
Lagos is a rune with very strong feminine energies. And I've read this theory before and I
How
personally,
is it, like the power of water?
yeah, like the power of water. There's a theory that I have heard about that I kind of agree with. It could have been tied with the water goddess of what is today Northern Germany, Denmark, Scandinavia. But the exact deity has been lost to time and is open to speculation. Because we do not know very much of anything, especially about the Vanir and the earth, more earth and local deities that exist in that area, pre-Christian domination. Most of that information was wiped out. A few scraps survived, like, in the case of Ostara. She survived simply because her name got put down as a monk. Otherwise, we would have no record of her. So it's probable that there could have been a water goddess tied to Lagus, and that would also fit in with most of these in this last 8 are tied to a deity. This is one that isn't. But it could be that there was a deity who is just not known to us anymore. Whoever she was, if she existed, she was a goddess with a very strong tie to water, the subconscious, dreams, tides, and the moon, all of which are associated with this rune here. So you think about that sense of water, the sea, the tides come and go, governed by the phases of the moon, but also with water and the water and magic, you're dealing very often with the subconscious, the dream state, the dream mind. And if she was a Vanir goddess, she could be linked to Scyther, the other form of Old German and Norse magic. Because there's rune magic and then there's Scyther. And Scyther deals a lot with shape-shifting and changing and altering the fabric of things. So if that's the case, then this rune is one that can be used to tie those 2 branches of magic together. And it makes sense because water, think about water. It's always changing its form. Whatever you pour water into is the shape that the water will take. It's like a cat. If it fits, it floats.
I get that analogy now.
Okay, so when you work with Lagus, just imagine like, a stream, a well, a lake. Nothing moving too fast. That's all Urus. It's not like water pouring down the rapid. It's water that's just kind of floating and happy like a manatee.
Mhm.
And speaking of manatees, if you want to put a Florida spin on it, my personal feeling is that Lagus is the rune of the Everglades, Lake Okeechobee, and our aquifers. Because the Everglades might be a river, but it is the widest, slowest moving river in the world. Lake Okeechobee in its purest state just gently overflowed its banks, and the water just drifted its way down the southern half of the state, filling the aquifers from which we take our drinking water to this day. And so it's flowing. It's also a rune of the dream world, the rising, the ebbing tides of our life. The subtle, smooth changes from day to day, your dreams, your thoughts, your daydreams. It's a rune that is very, very peaceful. It's very peaceful, very calming rune. If you're a person who suffers a lot from anxiety, from nervousness, you're having trouble connecting with your dreams and your more passive self.
I was thinking of like
You
the
take a
word,
step back.
Yeah, you need to take a step back. Lagus. Write it down, did I? Lagus is a good rune for that kind of healing magic.
I was thinking of like lagoon, if you think of like a lagoon.
Yeah, lagoon, exactly. Lagus, lagoon. Good analogy there. It's that just float back on the waves and just let them rock you to sleep. All right, so I'll draw it one more time so you get the idea. It's like a little line with a notch on the top, a small notch.
Like, water's simple, that's a simple sign, I like that.
Yeah. Like I said, and with so many of these runes, especially in the last 8, they're like most of them are all tied to a deity at some level, and it's like, okay, this one would make sense to have a deity too, but we don't know which one it is. But it's very possible that she just didn't survive in name down to our present day. So gentle like Lagus, yes? Gentle. We all know what a gentle, sweet, even-tempered, calm person I am, right?
Uh-huh,
Uh-huh.
uh-huh.
You all know that, right?
I've heard rumors.
Yeah, we know that, don't hurt us.
Right?
She is, until she's not.
That's
Just
because
like water.
that's
Just
my
like water.
Exactly. That is my one most Taurus-like trait. I'm very calm until I'm not. It's about the only Taurus trait that I got at birth. All the rest of them just went out the window, but that one stuck. All right, next one. Ingwas or ing. All right, I'm gonna draw this in both of its shapes. And you can kind of pick the one you like. So you have the fancy ingwas, which is like two Jarras smushed together. Or you have the simple ingwas, which is a little diamond meant to look like a seed.
Okay.
So this is,
I'm gonna do one better, just write both.
It's two things going like this.
yeah, it's like two Jarras smushed together.
That's it.
Yeah, it's
Thank God it's just a tiny bit of water.
okay. You're pretty far though. All right. Okay, so ingwas. Ingwas is the seed of creation. It takes its name from one of Freyr's oldest names, which is Yngvi. And the girl named Ingrid takes its root from that same word as Ingwas and Yngvi. And it means Freyr's beauty. So if you ever meet an Ingrid, this is her rune. She might not know it yet, but this is her rune.
That
Okay,
looks like a DNA helix strand.
it kind of does, yeah,
Almost, yeah.
The seed of creation.
There you go.
exactly. It's the
Except
seed of
that
creation.
It's more rounded,
Mhm,
the
mhm.
helix, but that.
Yeah.
And
That's a
that's
2D.
more sharp.
That's a 2D.
Well,
So
yeah.
if you see it,
remember, all runes are pointy because
Right.
they originally carved,
Carved.
and trying to get a curved carve is much more difficult than a pointy carve. So it might be that they were trying to draw DNA off of vision, but they didn't actually know what they were doing or what they were drawing. And they just
it looks like this.
it looks something like that. You know, so there's another cool story, which I'm just gonna tell very briefly related to this room, okay? It's the story of how Freyr got married. In one of Freyr's stories, he fell in love with Gerd, who was a beautiful, shining, Jotun young lady. And he moped around for days after he saw her in a vision. He was just like your classic mopey teenager, lounging around the house,
Yeah.
shouting.
We do that all the time.
So Scotty again, Shine, Scotty again, she's the hero of this story. She figured out what was going on. She basically went and was like, look, Freyr, what's wrong with you right now? What's going on? I met this beautiful woman and I know that is. And so she was like, well, figure it out. So Freyr promised his servant, you can have my horse, you can have my sword, just get her to marry me. And so his servant, Skirnir, was like, fine, whatever will wake you up from this stupid pouting phase you're in. So he promised to be the go-between, took a lot of effort. I'm almost positive from the very core of my soul that the story as it's told now with him like putting a sword to her throat and threatening her and all that. I don't believe that part of the story. I believe there was a different part of the story that happened. So I'll just skip to the end where she agreed that in 9 days he could meet her in the sacred wood and they would be married.
Lots of diamonds.
So Freyr heard the news. He was like, I am waiting 9 days. Oh my God, what a whiner. I mean, Freyr is definitely coming off like a Moby child this whole story. Hence the voice. But I'm sure, after 9 days, they went to the sacred wood and they were married. Why am I telling you this story with Mopi Frere? I believe that this story holds the clues to the hidden meanings of Ingwas. Because unrequited love leads to despair, just as an unplanted seed has no purpose and will never sprout. Okay? Second, Skati, who is herself a Jotun, a goddess of winter, of determination, of, oh, I'm going to get things done and they're going to be done my way or highway. She plays the action in driving the story forward because symbolically, winter compels us to take action and get those seeds planted. If we did not have the future threat of hardship, we would be less motivated to make our situation better today. We know things could go bad in the future. Say we're preparing for a hurricane, right? We know a hurricane could hit, so we go to the store, we buy 14 cases of water, pile them up in the hallway, because we want to make sure that if anything happens, that we are prepared for it. That's where
And the
Scotty,
toilet's flush.
and that the toilet's flush, yes. And that's where Scotty comes in. She is the one who shakes Frere out of his despair and makes him take that action. Frere must give up his sword and his horse, both of which are tokens of war and violence, in order to win the heart of the giantess he loves, who is a feminine creative force. He must give up that masculine, warlike energy if he wants to create the masculine creative force. Right? Because if you're focused on killing, you cannot create.
Yeah, killing is
You know,
anti-creation.
You gotta be willing to give that up. And he had to wait 9 days. Here we have that sacred number 9 again, because a seed cannot germinate all at once. It takes time. And the whole time that the seed is waiting underground, it is in darkness, it is moping. But at the same time, that darkness, that period where it is just not doing anything and really annoying, then it grows. It pushes up, meets the sun, and becomes, a grain or carrots or lettuce or whatever it's going to be.
It could symbolize the entire life cycle of a person as a child, a medium person that grows in the sun, is finally matured into an actual, yeah.
Exactly. It goes from that child state to the mature state. And I believe that story, however corruptedly it came down to us, holds in its story the way that this rune works. It's a counterpart to Jera. Jera is a rune of harvest. It's the thing that has come up and is now being gathered in. This is a rune of the spring, a rune of Imbolc, right? The unrealized possibilities, the longing, the possibility, the unknown. And as such, it is also sacred to Skuld, the third of the Norns, who holds the control over all that is yet to be woven. So, see, tomorrow, Imbolc, see I'm tying it all together?
I see.
So that's Ingwas, and again, there's 2 ways to draw it. You can have your squish together Jera, and that's sort of double helix pattern, or you can draw the little seed. Either one works. So since this is Imbolc, and if you are wanting to do any magic,
How many?
Rune's 4.
in the
This one would be 22.
next few weeks, Ingwas would be a good rune to incorporate into that magic, because it is all about forming the seeds.
What was the
forming
name of this
possibilities.
last one?
Ingwaz, Ingwaz.
And last one was Laguz.
Laguz, yes.
Sure.
Lagoon.
Laguz the lagoon, yes. All right, so now we have Dagas.
Dagas.
Same X, smaller legs.
That's. No.
And Dagas is another one where you kind of have an X in the middle and then you make two lines. Dagas.
It's a bow tie.
Yeah, so unlike Manas, you would keep going with the legs. Dagas, you just make more like a really pointy infinity.
Ah.
Again, with the pointiness, remember, you gotta have the pointiness if you're doing runes. No soft edges here.
They try to make the runes without lifting the pen.
What I keep thinking is, well, I keep seeing it on Facebook and Instagram. There's this like Dremel tool that would be like
Yeah.
perfect if these were like a little bit thicker.
Yes,
To make.
yes,
everything.
I mean, you guys are all welcome if you wanna go from these and then invest in a thicker set of wooden runes.
They might even be good for these.
They might, it's just,
Yeah.
these are kind of.
Might actually be good.
We'll have a different tip for each.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would just need a really fine tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely a possibility. Dagas means day, but also it more specifically refers to atmosphere or twilight. And I say Dagas means day, but you really gotta think more in terms of like atmosphere or twilight, because it's not day like, you know, a day of the week on a calendar, like how Rado is the day of the sun overhead and the moon, you know, in that 24-hour cycle. It's day as in the light of day. It's the air through which that light passes. It's the liminal moments when day dawns and when day sets. Okay, so it's that light of day and all the changes and motions that it goes through. Like any respectful rune appears at, it is a very subtle rune. So it's light, not just light in and of itself like Sawilo is, but light understood through its contrasts. You know, how does the light change throughout the day? If you're a photographer, you might talk about, you know, the sunrise or that golden hour of the afternoon or the, you know, the subtle, you got pinks and reds of the evening, you know, that whole red sky at morning, sailors take warning, red sky at night, sailors delight.
Mhm.
You know, it's day and it's light, it's atmosphere, but it's really can be understood in that angle on it. And you can see in its shape, right? It's symmetrical and it holds two halves together neatly, evenly, but they only touch at that one central point.
Kind of like the
And that's-
day and night, you can put day and night.
Yeah, day and night. It's closest equivalent I know of spiritually is the Tao of the Tao Ching, where you have the light and you have the darkness sort of evenly interspersed between them.
The yin and yang kind of thing.
Mhm, the yin and the yang. And that's the mystery of Dagas. It's the way in which two distinct things come together as a single entity. So you can picture to yourself like, you know, that sunset, you know, that last little light of sunlight and the way it falls upon a single little flower on the ground or on a rock or on a tree, right? That beam of sun, that last beam of sunlight and darkness is coming in. It's, you know, knowing that you are going through initiation or a change, and this is the last moment that you stand as your old self before you become that new self. You know, it's all about those sorts of physical and spiritual changes that you reach that point of no return. From this moment on, I am going to become something else, you know, it's the birthday room, right, Kimmy?
Yes, I'm okay with that.
That 11:59 on the day before your birthday, and then it switches to 12 o'clock and now you're a year older.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
Right? You're stronger. You know, it's a subtle rune. Again, I'm trying to explain as well as I can through these metaphors. When you are doing rune work, that gets really tricky because some runes work together better than others. When we talk about in our rune correspondences class, I'm going to go into this, how some runes play nicer with others and some runes don't like each other. Like Isa and Uruz, ice and wild ox. So the frozen water and the rapidly moving water, they don't like each other, magically speaking. You're trying to do two opposite things at once. Dagas is a good rune to use in conjunction with two runes that are polar opposites, because, again, it's that point at which the two opposites meet. So you could have Isa and Soilo, ice and sunlight. Well, how the heck do you work with ice and sunlight? Well, throw a Dagas in there, and then you find the point at which the ice and the sunlight meet in your spell work, if for any reason you need to do that. So yeah, we'll talk more about, I call them like the force multipliers or the catalyst runes. We'll talk more about them when we get to that class. But just for now, I just want to be kind of aware that, when you're working with this rune, it's oftentimes not just on its own. It works well when it's paired off with other runes. And that's really where it, it finds its groove. So again, to draw it, you want your X, right? That union of opposites. And then you box off your X. Okay, we're nearly there. I think this is, yep, this is our last rune. Okay. Last, but definitely not least. We have Othala.
Ah, I got that hanging on my door.
Well, that makes sense. Do you know why?
Portal?
Othala is the rune of the home.
Oh, I have it on my front door.
That's perfect. Okay, so if you think about this rune, like we talk about, outer and inner, in the old German culture where these runes were created, there you'd like have your little farmstead in like a little square, and you might have like the little outer fence, and then everything inside that farmstead is like your home, your oxen, your geese, and then you have your community, like right on the other side of the fence, but like inside here, this is my house kind of vibes. That's essentially what's going on here with Othala. Now, one other quick point, you will sometimes see it drawn with a couple of lines pointing upwards at the bottom. Not saying that's 100% a bad thing, but a lot of times one of the watch points in the heathen and German pagan communities of looking out for the neo-Nazis is they will always put the bottom points on their Othalas. So if you're interacting with other German pagans and you're not sure about their vibe and you notice the pointy Othalas, that's a good warning sign that
That
you
is
are
good to know,
hanging
yeah.
out with the wrong German pagan.
No, that's, yeah. I like
Notice
that.
I will not even draw a sample of it because unfortunately, because of its meaning as ancestry, heritage, your family lineage.
Oh, I see where they're leading it, yeah.
You see, that's one of its strongest meanings is, okay, this is my home, this is my family, this is my place. these are my ancestors. They like to try and steal this rune.
I like the,
Power.
it had that
Uh-huh.
safety net thing, so like, if you know enough about runes, like, oh, yeah, you got like a safety net kind of thing, like.
Now, again, my feeling and the feeling of most other German pagans who are not of that community is, hey, okay, you can celebrate, you can honor your own ancestors, your own heritage, but that doesn't mean you are superior to anyone else. It just, everyone has a family. Everyone comes from somewhere. There's nothing wrong with celebrating who you are and where you come from. The line is you just cannot let yourself believe that makes you better than somebody else. I am not better because I come from, whatever, skin color, eye color, hair color. I'm a person just like everybody else. And that's not. You and I can celebrate my own ancestry, my own heritage, but I'm not going to say that that makes me better than anybody else. Their problem is they believe that makes them superior.
Terrible, but.
It is, and like I said, and that's why when I talk about Othal, I always make that point that this is one rune that those kinds of people are very possessive of. Which they shouldn't be because it's not their rune.
Is there any,
Rune.
Exactly, and I will die on that hill too. That's my second neo-Nazi rant of the class, okay? I reserve the right to have more.
I mean, that's a big rune, it's a long conversation.
It's a lot of conversations, and there are a lot of major bloats within the heathen cycle. The bloats are the rituals that are kind of like our 8 sabbats, and 2 of them, alpha bloat and disa bloat, are meant to connect with your male and your female ancestors. So for alpha bloat, I will oftentimes combine like manas with Othala. For disa bloat, I will combine Berkana with Othala. And that again is just those 2 runes together then say, okay, I'm looking at my male ancestry, my female ancestry. And then this rune here is that ancestry part of the magic. But we are all at some point in the ancient past connected through our ancestry. We all descended from little tiny scrawny mammals that hid from the dinos and survived, all those mass extinctions. You go far enough back, we have common ancestry with mushrooms and with plants.
Mm-hmm.
And we're actually closer to the mushrooms than we are to the plants. So
Oh, I am a mushroom person.
yes, exactly. A lot of us here are mushrooms. It is.
They found petroglyphs of the DNA strand in the Great Pyramid.
Exactly. We are all linked at the end of the day. So that is really what Othala means. It is the reminder to us that we all have family, we all have bloodline. This is the place where we're from. But at the end of the day, we're all from the earth. We're all children of the earth. And when we talk about our home, when we talk about our ancestral, this is who we are. It can go as small as, this is my family home and we've lived in this home for 300 years, to this is the earth and we have all lived on this home for 60 billion years or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a member of a
Actually, they
large
all
family.
came from the ocean.
Exactly.
That's why we have.
We all came from the ocean at some point.
Our
Inefficient for land.
So you're-
blood is the same makeup as the ocean.
Exactly. The reason why we have a womb that we give birth from is because the fetus requires a certain level of water and saltiness or it doesn't exist. That's an adaptation that came about when we came on land and
So you're
stopped
saying
laying
women
eggs.
are salty?
We are very salty.
Listen, if you ask Leo, I am very salty at the place.
Okay.
Depends on the woman.
I'm returning my
All right. Well, hold on.
I just gotta go to the restroom.
Okay.
Sorry.
We'll let you
Been a
come back.
while.
No worries.
No, you're good. I just didn't want to be in the way, and I was becoming very much in the way.
Yes. So while we do that, I'll just kind of. Okay, so anyone have any quick questions for me? Well, I wanted her to come back before we keep going, so. Anyone got any? Yeah, I don't want to miss the next part, so. Everyone can draw their oath of laws if they haven't already. And then does anyone have any questions for me right now?
No, I found it at the Camelot's Day. This lady was selling twigs put together with flowers and crystals. And I was like, oh, I like that one. Just like, okay.
We're supposed to have a blank one?
No.
No blank, okay, that's right.
No, that's Pethro.
Do you ever draw an alternate Sowilo?
Oh, my bad.
What do you mean,
The stick with the, and then
Oh.
it kind of starts.
Oh, yeah, that one. I never really used that one. So I'm not very familiar with it. But yeah, I have seen that form of it.
So you're saying there's more than these 24. These 24 are it.
Well, these 24 are the elder. Futon.
Yeah, and then.
And then there's also, I think that other Sowilo, I think it's from the younger or the
Yeah.
Anglo-Saxon.
I think it's from the younger Plutarch.
Yeah, I
But
think it's
some
from-
people substituted in because of the SS using
Yes.
the Sowilo.
Yes, because the SS decided they would use Sowilo as their symbol, a double Sowilo. And yeah, it's all because Guido von List, I've read his rune book from 1902. That guy was on something.
Yeah, it's stuff of nightmares right there, yeah.
Well, in fairness, in 1902, he probably had no idea where his talk about Sowilo and the swastika being proof of how the Aryans were a superior race that needed to expand. He probably had no idea where that was going to go.
Yeah.
The problem is people read it and they had their own crazy ideas. And so then they glommed onto his crazy ideas.
Oh, it
Basically, you're
happens.
saying it did not age well.
It did not age well. Because I read it because I wanted to, see what was in there. And I read it and I was like, okay, I understand, dude, what you were writing. But 40 years after you wrote this, people took this completely the wrong direction.
Product of its time, more or less.
Well, it was a product of German nationalism, Christian anti-Semitism, and one guy who had undergone eye surgery was on a whole bunch of opioids. And yeah, we're gonna keep those energies away from our runes if at all possible. So now let's go ahead and do our rune blessing. So you can go ahead and put all your runes in the bag real quick.
Can I bless Leo's as well?
Yes, you can bless Leo's as well.
Okay, cool.
So
Turning all this.
I'll hold one in each hand.
and okay, yeah, good. We're on the next slide. Perfect. So this, and on that slide, by the way, that is a pear tree in bloom.
Oh, wow.
We're ready.
I see no partridge there at all.
There is no partridge in that pear tree,
Ah.
but it is, as I said,
My Pika.
the essence of the rune comes from the fruit-bearing tree. And my belief is that the fruit was a pear fruit and pears are awesome, so pear trees.
We put everything in the back or?
You can put them back in the bag, or I mean, if you can leave them on the table if you want, just put your hands over them. I just want you to like be connecting energetically with your roots.
That'd be really hard to do it with 2 bags.
Yeah, I think the way it's probably best for you. Leo, your runes are being blessed. If you're watching this, they're covered, okay?
I think he's asleep because he's not answering me.
Well, he'll see this video when it comes on YouTube.
True.
Yes. All right. So, a runic blessing by Birch Vivant. So I'll say each line and just repeat the lines after me. Odin, god of ecstasy.
Odin, god of ecstasy.
For these runes you strung a noose.
For these runes you strung a noose.
And cast aside ignorance with your pledge.
And
Cast aside ignorance with your pledge.
To watch the river of time flow.
To watch the river of time flow.
Yggdrasil, great world tree.
Yggdrasil, the great world tree.
Pull up wisdom from your roots.
Pull out wisdom from your roots.
Bathed in wells of fate and knowledge.
Bathed in wells of faith and knowledge.
We know not where your depths go.
We know not where your depths go.
Erd, Verhandi, Skuld, Norns 3. Speak to us of your truths.
Speak to us of your truths.
As we stand with our runes on the world's edge.
As we stand with our edge on the world's edge.
To learn what the wise can know.
To learn what the wise can know.
By universal powers we welcome thee.
By universal powers we welcome thee.
Runes born of Pethro's fruits.
Roots born of Admiral's roots.
In gateway, pathway, liminal ledge.
In gateway, pathway, liminal ledge.
We walk with you so we both may grow.
We walk with you so we both may grow.
So mote it be.
So mote it be.
Congratulations, everyone.
Yeah.
You now have a complete set of 24 runes of the Elder Futhark to carry with you as you complete the next series of classes in advanced runology.
Or a very weird game of Scrabble.
Or a very weird game of Scrabble, correct. Now, I know you're all very eager to delve further in studying and learning about the runes. So I'm just going to very quickly mention a few things of how you can further your knowledge, and then we'll break, okay?
Other than Google?
Other than Google.
Okay.
Though Google might work. Okay, so there's a lot to go into with the meanings of these runes, and I've tried to cover them as best I can. I will have copies of these notes as well for our upcoming classes that you can read and refer back to. I'll have them starting next session. But there's only so much I can teach all of you in these two classes about these runes. Some of these runes I could easily spend an entire class on by themselves, especially some of the more complex ones. And any rune can be very complex because they have levels of intricacy and secrets that go down like ladders way into the rabbit hole. But one of the best ways to work with and learn about the runes is through meditation. Most commonly recommended practice is you can take like a rune of a day or a rune of a week. I'm putting runes of the week up on Facebook. Putting it to Abelia's Grove and to the Grove and to my own page. You take a rune for a week or a day or whatever time frame works best with, with your life. And you spend a week reading about, meditating on, and working with that rune. And you get to know it very well. And then you can move on to the next rune and the next rune and the next rune. And you can find songs. Warduna has an entire album practically of songs that are like each decade to a rune. There's books that have rune meditations in them. I have some here if anyone wants to look at them. I brought some with me. You can do meditations, or you can just sit with the rune in your hand and just, think about what this rune means and just kind of go from there in a free-for-all meditation. But ultimately, runes are complicated enough that you can spend years, like me, studying the runes, and they will still surprise you. So don't be afraid if like you're working with the runes for like 3 years and suddenly you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that. It will happen. It's happening. And you all have seen how long I've been studying these runes for. So the more you work with your runes, the more you expose yourself to their magic, to their energies, the more receptive you're going to become. It's just like any other magical practice. It takes practice, right? Okay. So next slide. I just want to. Yeah, so just some recommended reading. I brought a few of my favorite rune books with me. This little guy here, The Truth About Runes. This was my very first rune book back in the day, back in Hialeah when I was carving my staff. This is what I had. And it's actually an amazing book. It's a lot of the things I'm covering in this class are mirrored in the book. And you can also, in the Havamal, the last section of the Havamal is the rune song. I read to you all from the rune song at the beginning of the last class. But it also has the rune spells, which are based on the younger Futhark. But they also can be useful for this. A few other good authors, Edred Thorson has a bunch of books about runes for everyone from beginners to advanced rune work. So he is a very good author, has a lot of experience. I don't have a paperback copy of Diane Paxton, but she is another really strongly recommended author. Diane Paxton, her book is Taking Up the Runes. It's based on a series of rune classes that she teaches. So it goes through basically sort of like what I'm doing here, teaching the runes. She has a different approach than I do, but it's still very good. But that's also a good way to work with them. And then, you know, a little bit more advanced, but Freya Aswin's Leaves of Yggdrasil. I absolutely love this book, especially if, like me, you work with a lot of the women's magic of the German tradition or the feminine magic. It's good for other things too, but there's a lot in here that I haven't been able to find anywhere else. She is from the Netherlands, so she is native to the area where the runes come from, and she has a lot of really interesting insights historically from the Netherlands in her book, which I find interesting too. And then Bedolf Gunderson's Teutonic Magic. This is another of my favorite rune books. At the end, it basically goes through every single rune and meditations on them. So if any of you are looking for a rune you want like specific meditation, I can talk to you about that and maybe share something out of there. So that is mostly what I have. And Hylum, that wonderful band Hylum, Norse Bronze Age metal. A lot of their songs are very closely tied to Galdr magic. In Majin, literally goes through the entire Elder Futhark in this chorus. Very loudly and very enthusiastically. It's awesome. It's also 12 minutes long. But one thing you might not know about In Majin, if you ever listen to it, the opening is an invocation to Tyr at the start of a battle. That's where they took the opening lines from. So I was talking about what Tiwaz and calling in the battle. Well, if you want to know what that sounds like, Hylum will tell you.
And they are awesome.
They are awesome. They are amazing. I love them, and I'm so happy to see them in concert. It was awesome. All right, so I'm just going to close now with a reading from Havamal 80. The runes are the gift of Odin. What you ask of them will be true. They were blooded by Odin and crafted from the Aesir. Listen to them. Don't try to tell them what they mean.
Damn. Ouchie.
Very nice.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that's my husband. He opens the door.
Well, you can tell your husband about your door.
Let's close our circle.
Yes.
Yes.
Blow out the candles, but hold it dear
To
everyone gathered here. From this grove we do depart, but keep this lessons in our hearts. Merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.
And
That was very good, Birch.
Oh,
Thank you.
Can we take these home now?